What's going on, guys? This is my news radar for Friday, April the 1st. The first news story is that I am switching completely to iPhone. Just kidding. April Fools. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the actual news, which I promise these will actually be real news stories. And the first real news story of the day involves Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold and Z Flip devices, because they are apparently getting a sort of change to their name. You see, from the very beginning of these devices, that Z moniker, just like the S series, well, the Z series indicated that this was a folding device. And I always quite like that idea. And I don't know if this is exactly what they were thinking, but an S is a nice soft bend, right? And then a Z is more sharp. It's like a fold. It's like a folding device. That you can kind of see what I'm talking about there. And again, I don't know if that's what Samsung actually had in mind, but that's where my brain always went. So whenever you see a Z device, you knew this was a folding OLED device of some kind, but it appears that that Z name may be going away. Let's look at this tweet here from Ishan Agarwal. Boy, that is not a language that I'm comfortable speaking. And what they tweeted was that Samsung has removed the Z from its phones in certain European countries. And he posts a shot here of their website that, as you can see, Galaxy Fold 3 5G. And of course, we would also imagine a Galaxy Flip 3 5G would also be the name of the Z Flip. And there's a very good reason why this is happening. And if you've already read ahead, good for you. You've gotten to the spoiler. But if you haven't read ahead, basically what we're talking about here is the letter Z has kind of become controversial in these European countries because the letter Z is apparently being used in a sort of propagandist sort of way. It's being painted on Russian military during this ongoing conflict in Ukraine. So the Russians are doing this so that they see the Z on a piece of equipment or on uniforms. I presume they then know that these are fellow Russian military members. They're not Ukrainian. I guess it's kind of difficult for them to tell sometimes who's who. So they're kind of labeling themselves with this Z. So you can imagine why Samsung, who is a company who has pulled out of Russia, they're no longer selling their products in Russia, from what I've read anyways. You can imagine why they might not want to be promoting devices with Z's all over them and Z's in the branding. They are now shipping retail boxes to these areas that have no Z on them as well. So this is kind of an odd reasoning for dropping the Z moniker or preface to their devices, but I'm actually kind of okay with it. Galaxy Fold kind of has just a cool, nice, short ring to it. Galaxy Flip, maybe we don't need the Z. Maybe that's going to be okay. Now, it's unclear as of yet if this is going to roll out to the rest of the world. Now, you can imagine that they're already printing different boxes, right? Different languages and things like this already. So maybe this is something that will stay there. Hard to say as of yet, but I would like to know what you guys think about this. Are you going to miss the Z moniker on these devices? Does this matter to you? I think it's kind of interesting. Let me know what you guys think. Moving on to the Google world, we have a leak here from Android Police of what appears to be a retail box for the upcoming unannounced and unreleased, of course, Google Pixel 6a. Obviously, with the 6 and the 6 Pro, we got this totally new design with that big bar across the back of the Pixel devices and a brand new camera module. Well, now we can pretty much confirm from this leak that the Pixel 6a is going to look very, very similar to the 6 and the 6 Pro. Of course, you're going to be dropping one of the cameras there. You don't have the periscope telephoto, but you do have two camera modules back there in the back. And like I said, a very similar look with the big black bar across the back. We don't know for sure what the camera hardware is going to be, right? It would not surprise me at all if we were still using a couple of 12 megapixel shooters. Maybe we'll get the 48 for the primary, since that has become something that even cheap phones are able to have. And of course, if you don't know, the 6A, just like the 3A, the 4A, the 5A, they're basically the cheaper, more budget version of the main flagship device that Google has put out. And they tend to sell really, really well because just as a general value proposition, they're really solid devices. They usually come in, $300-$400, and they are usually quite good. Great battery life, great camera, and the Pixel 6a should be no different from that. Now, even though I do expect the 6a to look pretty much like this is an early leak, so take it with a grain of salt. May or may not be real, but I would say pretty confident that is what it's going to look like. So let's talk about Microsoft for a little bit. Microsoft, of course, has a long history. There are no strangers to controversy involving default web browsers. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Go look back at the antitrust lawsuit from years gone by, Internet Explorer and so forth and so on. So you can imagine a lot of people had those raised eyebrows when Microsoft started doing some interesting things with Windows 11. They're making it quite difficult to change your default web browser. Well, it appears that some of that pushback, some of the anger from people, maybe they've changed their ways a little bit back to kind of how it used to be and how it should be going forward, because Microsoft has now added to Windows 11 an option to just straight out change your default browser. Let me show you exactly what we're talking about here when I'm talking about changing your defaults. I can kind of show you what it looked like before as well, because if you go into your settings, this is of course, like I said, Windows 11, and if you click on apps and then you go to default apps, if you were to then scroll down to a web browser like Firefox, you can see here before this is pretty much all you got. You got HTML, PDF, and you would have to actually go through and set each default to be Firefox. And obviously when you did that, you're still going to get this where they're going to say, hey, Edge is really good though, don't do that. But you would have to go through and do this. For each one of these you see Edge on, you would have to go through and change all of them to make it sort of be the default. Now you can just set universally, set as default, and that's going to work just fine at that point. Obviously, I actually do use Edge, so we're going to go back and we're going to find Microsoft Edge. We're going to set that as the default, and you see how that now did change some of those defaults. So again, you don't have to go through each one piecemeal and change them. You can just set default universally, and that is a lot better. I don't know why Microsoft tries to do this stuff. It's already bad enough that they have their little pop-up kind of encouraging you to stick with Edge. I like Edge. It's a really good web browser, even on my mobile devices and on my computer. But you gotta let people have the freedom of choice, right? You can't try and like annoy them into using your browser like this. I mean, I guess you can, but you shouldn't. And speaking of good things that Microsoft has done, they have officially changed the name of the Microsoft Your Phone app. They finally have addressed this, okay? The Your Phone app, that has always been an abysmal, terrible, awful name. It's confusing. When I tell people, yeah, I'm using this thing called Your Phone, people don't know what the hell I'm talking about. When I would tweet about this stuff, people think I'm talking about their phone. Your Phone means their phone. That's a terrible, terrible name. Well, via Windows Central, this has been addressed. The Your Phone app is now called Phone Link, which is like the most obvious name they could have possibly gone with. And on Windows 11, mine is already updated. Let me move this over to apps so that you're not going to see stuff you should not be seeing, like my text messages. Make this a bit easier on myself. Go to full screen, and you'll see up here in the corner, it says Phone Link. And I think that the icon actually changed, and that is the icon on my taskbar as well. You can see down there, and that's fantastic, right? That's a really good thing to have done. That's way better. And if you're using these other smart devices, it already says link to Windows. So, I mean, you're already kind of halfway there. Windows link to Windows. And you can see here from Windows Central, they have this shot here where they explain your phone is now Phone Link. And, you know, they've also, they mentioned here, they've changed the entire layout of the Phone Link app, which I think has been a big improvement. I absolutely love having my notifications pop up in line over here. I really like the way that it looks and the way that it performs now. So the new name is really fitting. I think it really brings it full circle into being a really, really nice product. But I think maybe the bigger piece of news here is the fact that Honor is actually going to be getting in on the action now. As Zach wrote here, until now, Surface Duo and Samsung devices are pretty much the most significant devices supported with the ability to launch apps and so forth, screen mirroring. Well, now these Honor smartphones, as you can see here, the Magic 5, 4, 3, and more to come, are now going to be also getting these features. Is this a harbinger of things to come? Are more phone companies going to get in on the action here with the Phone Link integration with Windows? Personally, I hope so. I hope that every phone can eventually access this app and use these really cool features. And I think that Zach kind of alludes to this. He talks about Google's Fast Pair system that they're working on. Well, if Microsoft wants to maintain their sort of market share with Phone Link, they're going to have to expand this thing. It can't just be Samsung and Microsoft devices, okay? You're going to have to get other devices on board. Honor's maybe a weird, unexpected place to continue this with, but eventually, this just needs to be a ubiquitous thing that you can just download, use, and have all this integration. And that would be really, really cool and a really nice thing to have for everybody. So guys, that's all the news I do have for you. Thanks for stopping by, and an extra huge special thanks to my YouTube members. As always, if you would like to have your name appear at the end of these news radars, becoming a YouTube member is the way to do that. I show off every single elite and super elite member just like this at the end of every news radar. So thanks to those people, and again, if you want to have your name there, you know what to do. I'll see you on the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.